video games. They're changing how we play, learn, and connect with one another. Now, the time has come to honor those video games that are the most widely recognized and remembered. Games that have enjoyed long popularity. Games that hold significance throughout the world, influencing other games, entertainment, and popular culture. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the induction ceremony for the World Video Game Hall of Fame.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'm Raleigh Adams, President and CEO of The Strong, and we're pleased to have with us this morning members of our Board of Trustees, members of our Selection Advisory Committee for the Hall of Fame, museum members, other invited guests, and of course, representatives of the media. Everything we do here at The Strong is predicated on the understanding that play is critical to learning and human development, and is an important window into understanding cultural history. Within that context, electronic gameplay is increasingly influential and important. It's changing how we play, how we learn, and how we connect with each other across boundaries of geography and culture. That is why The Strong established the International Center for the History of Electronic Games in 2009, and that is why we're gathered this morning to welcome the inaugural class of our newly created World Video Game Hall of Fame. Now to introduce our first inductee, please welcome John Paul Dyson, Director of our International Center for the History of Electronic Games.
Thank you, Raleigh. Through the World Video Game Hall of Fame, The Strong recognizes games of all types, arcade, console, computer, handheld, and mobile, that have enjoyed popularity over a sustained period, that have exerted influence on the video game industry, on popular culture, and society in general. This year, 15 games meeting the basic criteria were considered by the International Selection Advisory Committee. Those games are Angry Birds, Doom, FIFA, The Legend of Zelda, Minecraft, The Oregon Trail, Pac-Man, Pokemon, Pong, The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, Space Invaders, Super Mario Brothers, Tetris, and World of Warcraft. It's a great list. In a moment, my colleagues Jeremy Saucier and Shannon Simons will help me announce the inaugural class of the World Video Game Hall of Fame. Following the announcement, Jeremy, Shannon, and I will be available for questions and interviews, and some versions of the inducted games will be available for play. For those of you who are using social media throughout the induction, we're using the hashtag VideoGameHall, and the museum's Twitter handle is @MuseumOfPlay. Now, let's welcome our first inductee. It's hard to imagine, but once upon a time, most people had not heard of the idea of playing a video game. This game changed that. Introduced in 1972, it was not the first video game, but it was the first one to win widespread public attention. Produced under the direction of Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, and developed by engineer Al Alcorn, this arcade game was a hit from the beginning. Soon Americans all over were dropping quarters into the simple game that featured nothing more than a couple of paddles, a ball, and the simple instructions, avoid missing ball for high score. Pretty easy. In 1975, Atari collaborated with Sears to sell a home version of this title. I'm sure you recognize this game's iconic blips and beeps that began echoing living rooms across the country, transforming televisions from passive viewing devices to video playgrounds. The game is fun, memorable, and enduring. Our first inductee of the inaugural class of the World Video Game Hall of Fame is Pong. And now let's turn things over to Jeremy Saucier to announce the next inductee.
Thank you, JP. By the end of the 1970s, millions of people played video games in their homes and at video arcades. If Pong popularized video games, this game transcended them, becoming the best-selling arcade game of all time and a mass cultural phenomenon. Created by programmer Toru Iwatani and released by Namco in 1980, this game sent players chasing ghosts and high scores in a mad maze of fun. The game's iconic yellow pizza-shaped character injected personality into an industry that was dominated by abstract sports and shooter games. And it set the stage for later iconic video game characters like Mario and Sonic. It also spurred the first massive video game licensing craze, leading to character toys, clothing, a Saturday morning animated series, and even a top 10 song that described its gameplay as a fever. Over the last 3 decades, players have gobbled ghosts on dozens of gaming platforms. Bandai Namco Entertainment's recent revival of this video game, with an accompanying animated series and a toy line, prove that it's a game that each generation can enjoy anew. Our second inductee munched its way into the inaugural class of the World Video Game Hall of Fame. It's Pac-Man. Now here's Shannon Simons to announce our third inductee.
Thanks, Jeremy. While games like Pong and Pac-Man took the arcade world by storm, many players enjoyed their favorite titles from the comfort of their living rooms. A glut in the United States console market led to a temporary crash in 1983, but 2 years later, the Nintendo Entertainment System reinvigorated the market, thanks in no small part to an Italian-American plumber on a mission to rescue a kidnapped princess. Created by Shigeru Miyamoto, players jumped their way through this side-scrolling platformer, collecting power-ups to defeat Goombas, Koopa Troopers, and Piranha Plants, and finally confronting the evil Turtle Bowser. Though discerning players recognized this game's hero from previous Nintendo titles, such as Donkey Kong, this game launched him into international stardom. By the 1990s, he became not only the face of Nintendo, but the face of the entire video game industry. Only a few brief screenshots or bars of music are necessary for worldwide recognition of this game, which paved the way for the best-selling video game franchise of all time. It should come as no surprise that our third inductee to the World Video Game Hall of Fame is Super Mario Brothers. And now, for a special video from Don James, Executive Vice President at Nintendo of America.
Hi, I'm Don James. 30 years ago, I became the third employee hired at a new company called Nintendo of America. One of the first things I did was help come up with the name of one of the main characters in the arcade game Donkey Kong. We decided on the name Mario and had no idea the long-term impact it would have on the video game industry. On behalf of everyone at Nintendo, we want to thank the Strong for inducting Super Mario Bros. Into the inaugural class of the World Video Game Hall of Fame, and thank the millions of fans everywhere who helped make Mario a huge success. Again, thank you very much.
Back in the 1980s, A Soviet mathematician and computer scientist named Alexei Pajitnov had a love of puzzles. One especially close to his heart was a simple wooden mind bender in which the person had to fit puzzle pieces tightly into a rectangular box. What if he created a game based on this for computers? So, in 1984, he programmed a Soviet minicomputer, the Electronica 60, to play it. That meant putting some new twists on the play, including having shapes falling down a chute as players try to sort them, and making the pieces fall faster and faster. The game spread to other countries in Eastern Europe. In 1987, it came out for computers in the West, with a rollicking Russian folk tune as soundtrack. Players loved the mind-bending challenge of sorting these shapes to fill solid rows before the pieces piled too high. In 1989, Nintendo packaged it with its new Game Boy handheld system, and the game rocketed to worldwide popularity. People have played it billions of times since then. It's a game that's simple to learn, but is endlessly fun, no matter the player's skill level. Everything fell into place for this nominee, and no other puzzle game can stack up to it. Which is why Tetris is our next inductee. And here's Hank Rogers from the Tetris Company.
Hello, I'm Hank Rogers, Managing Director of the Tetris Company. I first saw Tetris in 1988 at the Consumer Electronics Show, and as soon as I started trying to clear lines with Tetraminos, I was hooked. A year later, I found myself in Moscow looking for the Game Boy rights. It is there where I met Alexei Pajitnov, the author of Tetris, and we instantly became friends and eventually business partners. Alexei and I never imagined that decades later, Tetris would still be as wildly as popular as it is today, with fans of all ages and cultures all over the world. We all love Tetris because at its core it speaks to our inherent desire to create order out of chaos. I wanted to thank the Strong for recognizing Tetris with its induction to the inaugural class of the World Video Game Hall of Fame, the same week that Tetris was created 31 years ago. This is an incredible honor, and it is greatly appreciated.
Personal computing proliferated during the 1990s, and few games better demonstrated the power of the computer as a plaything than this watershed video game. Led by John Carmack and John Romero, the development team at id Software created a game in 1993 that popularized the first-person shooter and pioneered key aspects of game design, including creating a game engine that separated the game's basic functions from other aspects such as artwork. id Software also tapped into emerging technologies to encourage multiplayer contests and digital distribution of the game. By giving players the first of 3 episodes for free, and then asking players to pay for further digital downloads, id demonstrated the potential of a business model that today dominates much of the video gaming world. Not only a commercial success and a technical achievement, this game also shaped political discourse about video games, as it became a highly visible symbol of the widespread debate about the role of games and violence in society. Simply put, this game changed the form, the function, the feel, and the perception of video games forever. And that's why Doom is our next inductee.
Well, may have thought this was game over, but there's still one more member of the 2015 class. In this massively multiplayer online role-playing game, Players create virtual avatars to explore an open, constantly evolving world where they battle monsters, complete quests, and chat with other players. Though far from the first popular MMO, this game, released in 2004 by Blizzard Entertainment, became the largest and best-selling of its type ever created. The game's popularity stems from the comparative ease in which players complete their tasks, thus appealing to both casual and hardcore gamers alike. It also provides an intensely personal and immersive experience, with players often viewing their digital avatars as direct extensions of their physical selves. Blizzard hosts gaming servers across the globe, allowing players to forge international relationships with one another. With 100 million accounts created since its release, it became the highest-grossing video game ever. In an era when free-to-play gaming is swiftly gaining ground, this game's ability to entice players to pay a $15 monthly fee speaks volumes to its lasting popularity. Our final inductee into the 2015 class of the World Video Game Hall of Fame is World of Warcraft.
So it's official. The first ever inductees into the World Video Game Hall of Fame are Pong, Pac-Man, Super Mario Bros., Tetris, Doom, and World of Warcraft. We'd like to thank Hank Rogers from the Tetris Company and Don James from Nintendo for their messages. Thank you also to our stagehands, Claudette Hercules and Shibam Rowe. In a couple of minutes, we'll be unveiling artifact cases displaying this year's inductees. Jeremy Saucier, Shannon Simons, and I will be available for questions and interviews, and our talented World of Warcraft actor will be available for photography. You're also welcome to play and film versions of some of the inducted games on display throughout the eGame Revolution exhibit area. Thank you all again for joining us this morning, and have a great day.